Croas. As long as you don't say Croas, we're good.
Oh.
You think I'm kidding. It is
Croas.
common mispronunciation.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, our final quick take for this block is Miss Heather Croas. Heather is a certified peer specialist and a whole health action management coach who resides in Cartersville, Georgia. Diagnosed with a mental illness at an early age, Heather was able to find solace through the lens of a camera, and she learned to use art as a way to communicate her thoughts and emotions. As an adult, her personal struggles with mental illness motivated her to assist others on their journey to wellness, and using her own experiences, she assists others in learning coping and self-help strategies. Please join me in welcoming Heather Croas.
We all mask. It's natural. It's a part of being human, because as much as I hate it, being human means that we live in community. And as someone who's so introverted they had to adjust the scale so that I would fit on it, it wasn't until recently that I started to recognize the importance of community. See, there was a benefit to COVID. Just saying. So because of this need for community, we often find ourselves changing to adapt. When we go into a new situation and we don't know what to expect, we think the people want us to be, right? We all do it. Think about all the times when someone asks you, hey, how you doing today? And they're not just using it as a greeting because, we're human and English is stupid. And so they actually want to know how you're doing. How often do you say, oh yeah, I'm having a really crappy day. How are you? Because nobody wants to hear that. So we say, oh yeah, I'm great, or I'm fine. Because we want to hide that and we want to hold that back. And so see, masking is a natural part of everybody's experience. But when you're someone like me and you're neurodivergent and you're considered, I hate this term, high functioning, or you are told you have low support needs, you often get told that you need to present as somebody that is neurotypical or able-bodied. And this is true for people that have visible disabilities as well, but it's a lot harder to hide it if you're sitting in a wheelchair or if you're hobbling around with crutches or a walker. And people have a tendency to talk down to you, so you have to work even harder to present and show people that you are capable of doing things. You just have to adapt. Let's be honest, if you have a disability, you are a human Swiss Army knife, you learn how to adapt, and the younger you learn about your disability, the quicker and more adaptations you make, and you get to be like a big honking Swiss Army knife. So there are some advantages to it. You just have to learn how to use them. Now, another disadvantage, and this is not a disability, but I'm left-handed. Yay! The only one in my family who's left-handed, so double yay! And in an attempt to socialize me at a young age, my mom put me into sports. I didn't really do the socialization thing real well, but I found that I really love sports. And like I said, I'm left-handed. Guess what? None of my coaches were. So I throw with my right hand, I bat with my right hand, I punt with my right foot. Now basketball, they encourage you to use both, and soccer, they encourage you to use both feet. So I'm pretty adapted and do pretty well with both left and right in those, and I can kind of throw like a 2-year-old with my left hand because I taught myself how to do it when I was trying to teach my nephew how to throw a ball. But if you're watching this video, you're going to notice that sometimes I'm using my left hand to draw, which is natural, it's comfortable, it's what I've been doing since I was a kid. It's how I really learned how to communicate my thoughts and feelings and emotions long before I was comfortable talking to people. It's not that I was ever fully nonverbal, but at a young age I was told that I mumbled all the time. I actually still told that now, come to think of it. And when I get really, really stressed or anxious, I start to stutter, and literally all the muscles in my jaw will clench tight and words just will not come out. In fact, the name of my first photo essay that I put together is called Words Are Hard because, well, they are. Plus, it's my catchphrase, and I said it as a joke, and they're like, you should call your book that. And I was like, okay. But see, here's the thing. I learned how to draw with my right hand because I'm also a bit of a klutz and have been in more car accidents than I can count. And about a year ago, actually just before the conference last year, I got rear-ended and busted up my left shoulder yet again. And I was really struggling with my mental health, and I'm really struggling with how to communicate and getting all the things out. But I couldn't use my left hand. I was like, all right, well, why not? I'll just pull out the sketchbook and see what I can do with my right. And this amazing thing happened. I realized, wow, I can actually draw with my right hand. But it required a lot more energy and effort, and it really, it was good because I didn't expect the perfection that I would expect from my left hand because I knew that it wasn't going to happen. But it required a lot more energy and focus and attention to detail because I don't have the muscle memory in it. Quite honestly, I'm not right-handed. And while people think I'm ambidextrous, I'm really not. I'm just really good at faking it, just like I'm really good at masking. Oftentimes people will look at me and are like, oh yeah, you don't have a disability. Or no, you're not autistic. Or my favorite, no, you don't have mental illness. No, I can pretty much guarantee you in all the hospital stays and people trying to pray demons out of me and other fun things that have occurred, pretty much reaffirm the fact that yes, I do have a mental health issue, and yes, I am autistic, and no, there's nothing wrong with that. It is a part of who I am. It's just a part of the way that my brain is wired. I have dealt with some trauma. I also have PTSD, which is a lot of fun. Please note the sarcasm. I know it doesn't always come off right, but I promise. We're working on this. English is my second language. So as you're watching this and you see going back from left and right? Think about all the times that you see someone and you think that they are understanding you. Maybe they're making eye contact, but it's really painful and you don't recognize that. Maybe they're sitting there and they're like chomping at the bit because they really want to share something with you, but they've been talking, nope, I gotta wait my turn. I gotta wait to speak because that's the polite thing to do. And yet you go out and you watch neurotypical conversations, and maybe you're in a conversation with someone who's neurotypical, and then somebody else comes up, and they start talking to that other person, and it's like your conversation never happened, but if you were to do that, then you get chastised. And so over the years, you learn not to do that, and you just stand patiently to the side, waiting for their conversation to end, even though you really don't understand why those rules apply differently to other people. And it's painful, and it hurts. And so you continue to wear this mask because you so desperately want to fit. You so desperately want to belong to the world. You learn how to draw with your right hand even though you're left-handed because that is what the expectation is. And of the one place where you would think you could be yourself, the one place where it shouldn't matter because God created us all and we are all in his image. You would think the church would be the place that you could go to be accepted and loved and people would understand, and yet, no. I have experienced more difficulty and more hardship from churches than I have ever experienced anywhere else outside of, high school and middle school in a small town in Georgia, where they are so super accepting to people that are different, especially when they're new. Oh my goodness, we even had our own special group. And when I told the counselor I didn't want to go anymore because I wanted to stay in class, he called over the intercom. He's like, but we're having popcorn today. And I'm like, I don't care. We're having a test tomorrow and we're studying for the test. But you want your popcorn. And you would think all the students would be like, no, she wants to stay. Can't you understand how important this test is to her? No, they were all like, well, we'll go eat your popcorn. What's wrong with you, you freak? What's wrong with me is I value my education. But see, they couldn't comprehend that. But see, like I said, you would think you would go to a church and you would be accepted and loved on and cared about. And so I did. I grew up in a divided household. My father was somewhere between atheist and agnostic, and my mother is a very devout and zealous Christian. And so I grew up around the church. I grew up knowing who God was. I grew up knowing who Jesus was. I grew up learning about these things. And so even though every time I have gone to the church, there's always been this battle with me, because I would go to the church in these times when I was really struggling, because I needed that love and I needed that compassion, and that's what I expected to find, and sometimes I would, at least in the beginning. But then they would start to see the mental health issues, and they would really start to become more prevalent, and then all of a sudden, I was no longer welcome. Part of my life story includes the opportunity to live out of my mobile home. It had 4 wheels under it, and it had a roof over its head, and it sounds better than I slept in my car. And I did that twice. Once was my choice out of stubbornness and stupidity, and quite frankly, I was in the middle of a mental health crisis, and it made more sense to me than going home with my tail tucked between my legs. The second time, I'm still not really clear what happened, but I found myself living on the streets again, and the second time was much more difficult. And the night that I ended up on the streets, my mom gave me a list of Bible verses and told me to study them because they were supposed to give me support and encouragement. And I'm reading them, which is fun, especially when you're dyslexic and all the words are jumping all over the page. I'll be honest, though, it's really interesting because you get to read the same book 100 times and it's different every time. So that's fun. But she gave me this list of verses, and I was trying to understand it, so I went to a church. And initially, they were really understanding, and they were helping me study the Bible, and they were helping me learn, and they were helping me get some encouragement. And then my grandfather died. And my grandfather was my constant, and his death was really difficult. But because I saw all the grief that was going around in my family, I shut down. And I didn't allow myself to grieve because I had to protect my family, and I couldn't let them deal with everything that I was dealing with. So it took months before it really sunk in. He passed away a week after my birthday, so July 4th, or August 4th. And then it wasn't until February when things really hit the fan. And I didn't know what to do, and I started self-harming again. And I went to the church with fresh cuts, and I was really struggling, and I was struggling with some suicidal thoughts. And I went to them, and I was like, hey, guys, I really need your help. They called paramedics, and I tried calling the church a few days later, and they informed me that I was no longer welcome in that church. About a year later, I went across the highway to the other big church, and I was talking to them. I was looking for just a young adult support, like small group, that I could be a part of, because I was trying to find people that I could associate with and, do this whole friendship concept that still confuses me. And I was sitting there, and I was talking to them, and then during that conversation, one of the pastors called over to the other church, and as soon as he hung up the phone, he came over to me and said, you need to leave our premise right now, or we will call the police and have you arrested. And if you ever come back on these premises, we will have you arrested for trespassing. Because, the church is such a warm and loving place, and they accept everybody. Because they expect everybody to walk in and be right-handed. And they expect everybody to walk in and be able-bodied and neurotypical and not have all these challenges. But I guarantee you, everybody in this room is dealing with something. Whether it is a physical health challenge, whether it is a mental health challenge, whether it is a chronic illness or an acute illness, we are all dealing with something. And here's the amazing thing. God created us all, and he created us all to live in community, which is one of the things I'm going to talk to him about in the upgrade. Can we not do that? Can we make it so that it's okay not to need community as much? Because when you reach out to that community and that community pushes you away, it really hurts. So that is my challenge for you guys today. Go out and just find at least one person that you can draw into your community and just show them the love and support that God has shown all of us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Heather.